Over the next few weeks, months, perhaps even years, I'm going to go through to every single spot that I think you should know about. Welcome to A Gentleman's London.
So we are in one of the more august tailors today on Savile Row. This is Dege Skinner. Why is it more august and storied? Well, as you may know, Britain was founded largely upon its military endeavours, and our British Army has a huge heritage that goes back across the centuries. And Dege Skinner is one of the remaining tailors that is catering to the British Army. But at the same time, and should be said first, it is one of the great traditional British tailors that does the great traditional British cut. So interesting note about Dege Skinner is that whilst it has been around for a very long time, it also is one of the very last, in fact one of two family-owned tailors on Savile Row. As well as that, is also one of two who still make bespoke shirts as well as suits on Savile Row as well. It was founded in 1865, which, to put things into context, was the same year that Abraham Lincoln was shot. Now we'll come to the uniforms in a bit, but I want to start with this because this, for anybody who's coming in who isn't in the British Army, is useful to know exactly what it is that Dege Skinner do today. This is a classic blazer. You can see with them it's looking like a 3 3/4 inch lapel, which is the kind of traditional lapel, the kind of go-to for most tailors is 3 3/4 inches, maybe 3.5, with what I refer to as the scimitar lapel, kind of like a sort of sabre, sort of curved, which is really beautiful and gives a little bit of shape, a little bit of silhouette and belly to the blazer. But high armhole, stronger shoulder. It's not so strong like in the 1970s, which we'll see with other tailors like Edward Sexton, where the shoulder would be almost square, but it is, I would say, somewhere between strong and natural, which is that military tailoring look to give a bit of strength across the shoulders. And because of the high armholes, it allows for a lot of shape around the waist. So it's very flattering. And then when you have a slightly lower sort of end, the skirt, which is at the end of the jacket, that is what creates that optical illusion of shape, elegant, sophisticated clothing. Just a little bit of tailoring jargon for you. You see these pockets here, they're straight pockets with a flap. Now, the reason you might find that there are slanted pockets on some jackets, that's because they come or stem from equestrian history, because the idea that you should be able to put your hand in your pocket when you're in the saddle. So this jacket is not designed for that. This is for the city man. Now, as mentioned, since 1865, Dege Skinner have been making outfits for the British military. This up here is actually something of a newcomer. In 2015, the 9th, 12th Royal Lancers and the Queen's Royal Lancers amalgamated to create the Royal Lancers. And this mess dress is to some extent, an amalgamation of both of their initial mess dresses to incorporate the heritages and traditions of the regiments when they came together to create one single uniform. So when an officer passes out, and this is actually the mess dress of a major, you can tell by the crown up here on the shoulder. The small details, like for example the white waistcoat, that was only relevant to one of the regiments, but they made sure that it came in because it was such an important part, despite the fact that white for a dinner jacket is not particularly practical. It's an important part of the history of the regiment. The people who actually are able to make this particular style of braiding, there aren't that many left, so it's a really intricate, beautiful, it's almost like combining shoelaces together. It's very delicate, and the very height of craftsmanship that are put into something like this is quite exceptional. This here is a Guards mess dress, so it's a mess dress for the Guards regiments. Specifically, it's for the Coldstream Guards. You can tell that because the Garter star here on the really beautiful shawl lapel. Shawl lapel is when it's one continuous lapel from the back of the collar all the way through. We'll go into lapels at another time, but for now, shawl lapel. Now, interesting way of being able to spot regiments by their uniform is by the button stancing. It's a lot easier to tell by the red tunics that you'll see outside Buckingham Palace, so trooping the colour, but you can just about spot here that it's 2x2, which means it is the Coldstream Guards. If it was Grenadier Guards, it would be straight buttoning as per normal buttoning. If it's Scots Guards, it's 3. If it's Irish Guards, it's by 4. And if it's Welsh Guards, it's by 5. So that's just a nice little detail from these. These are what's referred to as a shell jacket. It's a little bit like white tie tail jacket without the tails, but it's referred to as a shell jacket, and it goes back all the way back to the mid-19th century was when mess dress came into use. It's the smartest of the uniforms worn in the evening, so it's a uniform version of black tie. Now, final interesting thing to see. Now, I know that if you've been to a museum ever, you would look at uniforms from hundreds of years ago and you think, oh gosh, they're so small back then. This is not one of those examples, but I can see why you might think that. But this is actually quite recently made, and it was made for Prince George of Cambridge, the son of Prince William and Princess Catherine, Prince and Princess of Wales. So this is what he wore to Prince Harry's wedding. It's actually a replica because the original one is hermetically sealed in a royal archives, but it's got all the embellishments of a guard's frock coat. So what you would see if you go to something like the inspection for the Household Cavalry Horse Guards Parade, you will see the inspecting officer wearing this coat. And the really beautiful embroidery and embellishments that are sort of stapled across the British Army was represented in minute form for Prince George. So the reason I'm showing you these is ultimately because when it comes to tailoring, the skill set required is a lot broader. And in the back rooms of Dege Skinner, the tailors there are both able to accomplish the really complex aspects of military tailoring as well as the traditional tailoring that you'll find on a modern gentleman. Replica of what he wore to Prince Harry's wedding, that was a stupid joke. Sorry.